last Thursday, Coach Prime did what Coach Prime does, and he pulled yet another 5-star recruit out of a recruiting class. This one is cornerback Cormani McClain. McClain is the number one player at his position at cornerback, who also is committed to Colorado, which is just still the wildest thing, and I'll get into why that is so wild. But what it means for us is Cormani McClain joins what is already the number one corner in the 2022 class in Travis Hunter, which means that you're probably looking at both of those guys at one point or another holding down the field or the boundary, which is wild to think about for me, because it's one thing for you to have outstanding corners or an outstanding corner or even an outstanding corner in safety. It's another thing for you to have two number ones from back-to-back classes on the same field at the same time playing for you. And did I add, this is Colorado? All right. So this went down last Thursday, and I immediately went, well, Miami, that sucks, because it felt like they had him up until a minute. And then you're looking at this, and you see that he'd been committed to Miami since October, went all the way through early signing period without making a decision, then makes a decision about a couple weeks before National Signing Day, which is February 1st, the Wednesday. Yes, because February 2nd is a Thursday, and I got date night. So that's how I was able to keep that straight. It's also the second straight season for which we talk about Coach Prime pulling out a recruit that we don't think he should have any business going to get unless you are on the train, right? He did this by landing Travis Hunter at not just an FCS school, but an HBCU, the first of its kind in the recruiting era, where the number one player at the time in the country decides to play at the lower division. And you got to see what that looked like at Jackson State, right? And Jackson State was really good when Prime was head coach. But for most college football fans, it's been kind of a fun story. Even, dare I say, an oddity. Because they're like, oh, okay, that's nice. He's doing that in the FCS. He's doing that in the SWAC. I don't actually play against Jackson State because, A, they weren't in the business of scheduling Power 5 programs. And B, you're just not going to play them in any sort of bowl game or playoff situation. And then Prime took a job in the Power 5 where people already said he's not going to be able to do at Colorado what he did at Jackson State. First of all, you have no idea how hard it was for him to do that at Jackson State, because it's been tried, guys, and nobody else was able to do it. Now you go from 63 scholarship players to 85 scholarship players. You go from a place that couldn't even get clean water in the facility, and you still won more games than anybody else in that short amount of time, to a place where they quite literally have water coming off of mountains. Okay? This is not going away. Prime is going to be here for a long time, and Cormani McClain is yet another reason for you to get on board with this train before it leaves the station. Telling you, we at the number one college football show have been all over the Deion Sanders stuff because, well, it's fun, and I'm drawn to winning like you're drawn to winning. So, question is, what does this move mean for Deion? It means that nobody is off limits to him. Nobody. That puts him in an echelon with Nick Saban, with Kirby Smart, with Ryan Day, with Lincoln Riley very, very quickly. And again, hasn't yet coached a game in the Power 5, but is landing 5-star recruits. Give that just a think. Who is the last first-year head coach you know of who's landing 5-star recruits without ever having coached a football game in Power 5? Now, there are lots of names out there, but I need you to think about it, because it is one that is jarring, right? I think that comes into account. Could Cormani start for the Buffaloes right away? It's easier to say who he wouldn't start for right away. Of course, I think he's going to start right away. He's a 5-star player and the best player at his position in the 2023 class. And what else you gonna do? I'm being kind of serious on this, but as much as it feels like I'm being funny, but there are maybe 10 players at his position that might start ahead of him, and they don't play in his conference. All right? No disrespect to the Pac-12, but you're going to start Cormani McClain everywhere else in that league. You're talking about perhaps Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, maybe Michigan, right? What they've been able to do lately. But that list gets very, very small very, very quickly. I'm more interested to see what this means for Travis Hunter, because you'll also know that Travis Hunter played both ways at Jackson State, or at least maybe you know because you listen to this show, because I'm the only national guy that really gives a damn about what JSU was doing last year. And frankly, it's for reasons like this. so that when this sort of news happens, you know that I've been paying attention to it. And if you watch nothing else of Jackson State last year, perhaps you watched the Celebration Bowl, for which you saw the viral clip of him catching a touchdown pass from Deion Sanders that put them in a position to win the game. This is the man who came in as a corner. And when I asked Coach Prime about Travis Hunter, whom he had just landed maybe 3 weeks before he did our show last February, if he was going to go both ways, he was coy. He said, look, I got to get Travis to play corner first. He got to be really good at playing corner. Well, he was really good at playing corner very, very quickly. All right. So much so that they had him going both ways. And not only that, they had him playing against FAMU, even though he wasn't fully healthy. It was his decision to go. Prime really had to think about it. He didn't want him to go out there and not be the guy he is capable of being. And he's still one of the better players in that division, one of the better players in the country. Now, I've also heard Coach Prime say, hey, look, Travis's heart kind of receiver, guys, and he's really good at it. And frankly, if you look at the NFL, that's where the money is. It ain't in being the best corner in the NFL. It's in being the best wide receiver in the NFL. Anybody who's gone up to see that dude high point a ball knows that he could do that. And so if you know you've got Cormani McClain on one side of the field, does it make it easier for you to let Travis Hunter go both ways? I think so, because you're no longer asking your number one corner to do both sides and do both work, do as much work as much as you're asking him, hey, here and there, we're going to let this go. We're going to let this slide. We're going to see what you can do. And we're going to let you be who you wanted to be. The reason that you signed up to be coached by Coach Prime, because that dude famously went both ways at every single level and was a problem at every single level. And that is what Cormani McClain has signed up for too, which begs the question, how long before we might think of Cormani McClain going both ways? This is the kind of excitement that we're getting from a Coach Prime football team, and I'm very excited about it. Now, Coach Prime has managed to keep Colorado very much in our line of sight because some other news happened very, very quickly following the news that Cormani McClain committed to Colorado, and that is Jaden Rashada received his release from the University of Florida on Friday, the day after Cormani McClain had committed Thursday last. So let me backtrack this for a little bit, catch you up on Jaden Rashada if you don't know already. Okay. Jaden Rashada is a 4-star recruit, top 30 in the country, actually. So fringe 5-star recruit at quarterback. Dude's coming out of Pittsburgh, California, thrown for over 5,200 yards, like 59 touchdowns, 18 picks last year alone. He's that dude. Now, he had first committed to Miami in November. Then he flipped his commitment to Florida in November. And that's where it gets interesting. After he committed to Florida, the Gator Collective, that is their NIL collective that's not affiliated with the University of Florida, but is run by University of Florida alumni, had put together a contract for him that pays him $13 million over 4 years. It's a good chunk of change. And I would like to see it if I were him. Not long after they sent him that contract and he signed it, they tried to send him a termination letter and renege on the $13 million over 4 years. You can see how that's a problem for the Rashadas. And frankly, it should be, because now we're talking about adults who don't keep their word and think that somehow a contract is not binding. But he signed his letter of intent eventually during an early signing period, even as Billy Napier dragged his press conference on for another hour waiting for it to get there. And then it became clear that he was not going to enroll at the University of Florida. The late registration period came and went, and he was not enrolled. He asked for his letter of intent to be released, along with, any obligation he has to the University of Florida. And he got that on Friday last. Now, what's interesting is we got a report from Rivals that claims that Jaden Rashada had set up an opportunity to go take a look at Colorado. Now, don't know if that visit actually came into fruition. Don't even know if, we got some good reports out of it, because frankly, the photo shoots that we're used to seeing coming out of this, not necessarily eye-popping, but, we got 2 weeks to figure it out. What is interesting, though, and I think the thing to take away from all of this is Jaden Rashada, a top quarterback recruit, is giving his attention to a football program that finished 1-11 last year, has not had a single winning season since 2016, and hasn't had back-to-back winning seasons since 2004, 2005, or the last year that Joel Klatt played quarterback in college. I cannot tell you how big a deal that is. Now, caveat there. There are lots of folks that want to say, hey, well, Jaden Rashada also has to take a look at places where they're full up. Don't give me that. Don't give me that. I don't care about what you think is full up. For a player of his caliber, you will pull out all the stops. And frankly, others have. Like Arizona State is going to try to win him. He's reportedly taking a visit to Texas Christian. He's going to see all that's out there for him to do. And I really think that it is just folks getting mad about Jaden Rashada having this much attention who want to raise the issue of, hey, does he even have a scholarship in most places? Yes, hell, he does. Okay? He is that good. And for you to act as if he isn't is just sour grapes, and I'm not here for it. Now, on top of all of that, I wondered about the name, image, and likeness aspect of it for Jaden Rashada, for which it has become clear that is a big part of it, or at least it was a big part of it at Florida. Okay? I'd like to think that other folks would ask him about his NIL, let's call it promises, what he would like to see. The nice thing about a place like Colorado is you got pride. You got a head coach that was on the cover of GQ magazine. You got a head coach that succeeded in getting his star quarterback and son a sponsorship from Gatorade as an FCS player, putting Shedeur Sanders' name next to that of Serena Williams, Zion Williamson, J.J. Watt, and the like. You got a coach who's got his own docuseries on Amazon Prime called Coach Prime. And you got a man who has over 3 million followers on Instagram, over 1.3 million followers on Twitter, and anything he wants to say and give attention to gets its attention. All to say, you ain't got to depend on anybody's NIL collective to get you a grip if you play for Coach Prime and you can play. They will come and find you. I don't know who else is going to be able to put that kind of a deal together for him just by being in the same room, and quiet as it's kept. If you choose to commit to Colorado and sign your letter of intent and make it stick, you are the heir apparent to Shedeur Sanders, which means you would be the first quarterback to come after Shedeur Sanders has finished playing his college football. And that's not a bad spot to be at all, because all you've seen from Shedeur Sanders is he can spin it, and his head coach is going to let him. What says he wouldn't let a guy like Jaden Rashada do exactly that? Now, after all of the success that Colorado has had on the recruiting trail, even adding 25 to date commits out of the transfer portal, how quickly before they contend? I don't know. I'm not betting against them. I've already circled games like Colorado versus USC on September 30th because we're going to figure out a bunch. I've circled games like September 2nd versus Texas Christian because we're going to figure out a bunch. What I'm saying here is this is the first time in my entire life that I have been excited about Colorado football. I should take that back. It's the first time in 21st century I have been excited about Colorado football. Last time I was excited about Colorado football, Slash was playing quarterback. Rashad Salam was in the backfield. I was 8. Okay? I'm here for exciting football. I'm here for cool stories. And if they contend in the Pac-12, it shouldn't shock anybody. What would be a shock, I think, is if they make the college football playoff in his first year. But I would not bet against him doing just that. Also add to this little nugget that I love. USC has never lost to Colorado. Never. And they've been playing them off and on since 1927. It's like 16 straight games of USC stomping on Colorado. We'll see what that looks like come September 30th because, quiet as it also is kept, the strength of Coach Prime's football teams are not the offense. They're the defense. That's how they were able to beat people up at Jackson State. And that's Charles Kelly as defense coordinator, who was coaching secondaries at Alabama. Hello? Just saying, man. There's a lot to be excited about here. And if you're not excited about it, I can't help you. I can't help you. Thank you for watching the #1 college football show. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video so that you don't miss any of the best college football coverage in America.